Good morning, Dr. Loy Anderson here, and I want to talk to you about DHEA today. Talking about hormones in general is one of my favorite topics, and DHEA is one of the best hormones to talk about. DHEA stands for dehydroepiandrosterone. Let's just stick with DHEA. It's way easier. And this hormone comes in two forms. DHEA is the main or active form, and there's a sulfated or ester form that's considered kind of like the storage form. So I think of DHEAS as the storage form. The body converts back and forth between those two forms to make sure that its needs are met. Well, what is DHEA and what's the big deal about it? Well, it's the most abundant hormone that your adrenal glands produce. You may think of your adrenal glands as being important in regulating stress, and they are, but they're also very important in your sex hormones. And DHEA is a really cool hormone. It's kind of both a sex hormone and a stress hormone. It really is important in both of those critical pathways for our abundant health. It is a precursor for over 50 other types of hormones. Approximately 50% of testosterone in men and up to 75% of estrogen in women is being made from DHEA. DHEA typically peaks when we're around our 20s, early 20s, and from there it steadily declines for both men and women. Typically, men have a little bit higher levels than women, but it's important for both sexes, and it gradually declines as we age. So by the time a person gets to their 70s, 80s, or even 90s, they can have significantly lower levels than when they're in their 20s. Now, there was some very fascinating research that came out showing a strong connection between aging and aging symptoms and lower DHEA. And so some people call DHEA an anti-aging hormone because we see a strong correlation when it's deficient with accelerated signs and symptoms of aging, which of course most of us are trying to avoid. So that's a little bit about the general background. But how do you know if it's too low or if it's too high, and what can you do about it? Well, typically it's going to be too low. The only reason it would be too high in a natural state is if you maybe have some kind of a hormone secreting tumor and you're secreting too much. The other reason it's too high is if you're taking a supplement with DHEA in it. And a lot of over-the-counter supplements that are sold for anti-aging, for skincare, for stress, hormone support have DHEA, and they may not even disclose that. So I really urge you to be very careful about what you're taking. Read the ingredient labels carefully, and I don't recommend taking DHEA without actually testing to know what your levels are. Because if you have normal levels and then you start taking it because you think you need some, you may have symptoms of too much. So let's go over that first, and then we're going to talk about the much more common problems of not enough DHEA. But if you're getting too much by supplementing, you may have symptoms that are what we call androgenic, because again, that DHEA is a precursor for the androgenic hormones like testosterone. So you could get more acne, you could get more facial hair, you may get scalp hair loss or scalp irritation and skin breakouts. You can get more irritability or aggressiveness. You may have problems sleeping and insomnia. Those are some common symptoms of too much DHEA. This is important to know because if you ever decide to supplement with DHEA, you need to know what to watch for that you might be getting too much. But now let's go back to symptoms of not enough DHEA. Lack of DHEA or deficiency is associated with a lot of serious diseases, including metabolic diseases like diabetes, high cholesterol, and high blood pressure. It is connected with diseases like blood clot formation, heart disease, cancer, osteoporosis, even things like depression, obesity, and decreased immune function and loss of bone strength and muscle mass are all connected to decreased DHEA. That's why it's called an anti-aging hormone. And so many people that we work with have many of these problems, and I check DHEA in just about every client. If you've worked with me, you know that that's true. The biggest causes of low DHEA, besides the natural decline as we get older, is stress. So high chronic stress will long-term deplete your DHEA. It affects your adrenals' ability to respond to stress and to produce adequate levels of DHEA. One of the most common symptoms that I hear from people that have very low DHEA is feeling overwhelmed, simply feeling like life is just too difficult. It's too hard to handle and everything feels overwhelming. Also, being very unable to handle stressors, including what we might otherwise think of as normal day-to-day stressors. Not being able to handle those stressors can be signs of low DHEA. So again, I recommend testing. You can test for DHEA in both blood or saliva. Either one will give you a picture. I tend to use more saliva. But either way, you want to know what your levels are before you just start taking a supplement, because those symptoms could be from something else going on too, and you don't want to just blindly start taking something. Now, there's no natural way to get more DHEA other than regulate your stress, improve your adrenal health through things like good sleep, good nutrition, etc. Those things do restore adrenal function and can help with production of DHEA, but you can't get it from a plant. Plants don't make DHEA. You can only take it in a supplement form when you're extremely depleted and you need some support. So the dosing of DHEA can vary hugely. I always recommend starting with a very low dose and going up gradually. Now, even if you know what your level is, it doesn't tell us exactly what the dose is that you're going to need to feel your best. Some people, like myself, maybe only need to take 5 or 10 milligrams. That's a pretty low dose, but for me, that makes a difference. Other people, especially if you're a male, you might need to take 25, 40, even up to 50 milligrams. But I would never recommend anyone start that level, especially if you're a female. We need less. We need less of this hormone as a female. But we need it just as much as men do. So start very low, go up slowly, and you can gradually increase the dose until you feel a response. Well, what are you going to feel? You might notice more energy. I recommend taking this in the morning because it tends to support energy, although it's not a stimulant, it's not addicting, it's not habit forming. Another way you can tell how it's helping you is, are you responding to stress better? Are you handling stress better? Are you feeling less overwhelmed? Now, a lot of people will tell me, I don't know if it's working. I don't know if this is helping. Well, if you're not sure and you've gone up to a reasonable dose, maybe for a woman that's going to be 20, 25 milligrams. For a man, that might be up to 50 milligrams. If you still don't feel like it's making any difference, well, then stop taking it. When you stop taking it, you may really notice a difference. And that's when you go, aha, it was helping me. Now I can feel the difference because you've now stopped it. You can take DHEA as long as you need to. You may need to adjust the dose. Again, naturally, it's going to decline as we age. So maybe now you need a higher dose and later you'll need a lower dose. Also, if your stress levels are better, you're getting better sleep, you're getting better nutrition, all the things that we teach you to do, you're going to need less DHEA support. So it's not one number forever for the rest of your life. It's adjust as needed. That's why it's important to know what it feels like when there's not enough and what it feels like when there's too much. Yes, we can check the levels again and we can get an idea of where you should be, but the better indication of how much you need is how you feel. You are the best indication of how much you need and how it feels. So I hope this was helpful to you. DHEA is one of my favorite hormones. Hormones in general are so much fun to work with because when we help you reach balance, your life improves dramatically. Your quality of life improves, your relationships improve, your health improves. This can help everything from mood to libido to strength to metabolic disease. But don't just go buy some. Make sure you check your levels. Make sure you know what you're watching for, whether it's too high or too low before you dive in. But again, I hope this was super helpful and that you have abundant health. Take care.